say that you want more visibility in your business, but are you really playing the hide and seek game? You're saying, I really don't want to be seen. Come and find me. Oh, here I am. And you could be playing hide and seek because of three hidden fears. Welcome to Biz Success in 15. I'm your host, Cindy J, the Visibility Wiz, and I'm here to guide you as you step into who you are with outrageous confidence for more visibility, influence, and profits. Remember, you can get your visibility checklist at visibilitychecklist.com today. And we're going to be speaking about the three hidden fears of visibility. Now, what does the dictionary say fear is? According to the dictionary, fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain, or is a threat. In simple terms, fear is an anxious feeling caused by our anticipation of some imagined event or experience. Fear is an anxious feeling caused by our anticipation of some imagined event or experience. Everybody is going to experience fear in a variety of ways. And as business owners, we tend to experience a little bit more. And these three hidden fears definitely will keep you stuck and hold you back in your business. The first fear is making a fatal mistake, making a fatal mistake that's going to kill your business overnight. And so, what we do if we're afraid of making a fatal mistake is we waste time. We find so many things to do except for what we should be doing, such as those money making activities. So, we just waste time. We'll clean our house, we'll take a walk, we'll phone a friend, we'll go play with the dog. Whatever it is, we waste time. We can also waste a whole lot of time on social media. Or you just procrastinate. You just simply procrastinate. And you're like, oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it in an hour. I'll do it tonight. I'll do it next week. And we procrastinate. So we never do what we need to do to succeed. And also, with that whole making a fatal mistake, we don't want to let other people down. And because we don't want other people down, we don't take action because we don't want to make a fatal mistake and screw up the relationships that we have. This happens a lot with emails. People say they don't they don't send emails to their list because they don't like the unsubscribed, so they don't want to bother the other person. So therefore, they don't send any at all. And when the reality is that if you're not sending emails to your list, you're ghosting them. So you don't want to be a ghost. Fear number two is not knowing enough. It's that, and the not knowing enough, that brings on the FOMO, fear of missing out. We don't think we know enough to succeed. That imposter syndrome sets in. So therefore, we start buying everything until we think we know enough. And you know what? You're never going to feel like you know enough to succeed. The only way to succeed is to step through that fear and start acting today. Also, with the not knowing enough, we might imitate somebody else 100%. I've heard so many people say, well, I did everything that so-and-so did. I used their copy. I did everything, but you are not so-and-so. So therefore you cannot succeed, even though it worked for so-and-so. So remember, you can't imitate somebody else. You need to step into who you are with outrageous confidence. You need to be authentic. Be comfortable with who you are. And on the opposite side of the coin, sometimes you attempt not to imitate other people. And also, whenever you have that fear of not knowing enough, you are very uncomfortable and you don't know how to be comfortable with your uncomfortableness, or you're trying to be perfect. I worked with a client for over a year. She never got her business off the ground. Why? Because every single week, oh, Spirit told me to change my website and I can't let anybody see it till it's changed. This woman kept changing it and changing it and changing it and change. She must have changed her website a good 20 times in the year that I worked with her. She never made a penny because she wanted everything to be perfect. And, nothing's never perfect. I wrote my book, Overcoming Dark Family Secrets, and I'm sure that I could go in there and change the whole dang book, right? We can always make changes. So nothing's ever, quote unquote, done. You have to be okay with letting stuff out there, even though it's not perfect. Know that done is good enough. Stop trying to be perfect, because that is a fear that's holding you back. It's that you don't know enough. You're not perfect. You don't know everything there is to know. Well, you're never going to know everything there is to know. There's always going to be people that know more than you and less than you on any given subject. And what I always like to say is, interestingly, we can learn so much from children. If you start watching children, what can you learn from them? How they play, how they interact with other people, how they make things up in their head, how they stay very, very, very focused on one thing at a time. The third fear that could be keeping you stuck is being found as a fraud. That's the good old imposter syndrome. Oh my God, what if somebody judges me? What if they reject me? I'm going to get hate mail. There's going to be trolls. And this is a huge, 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 huge fear that I see so many people have with visibility, because we all want to be liked by everybody. But interestingly, we don't like everybody else. But know that you are not a fraud. You know what you know. Even if somebody disagrees with you, you know what you know. There's nothing in this world that everybody agrees on, like nothing. There's no one religion that everybody agrees on. There's no one set of politics that everybody agrees on. There's nothing that everybody agrees on. There was potato, potata. Is that what I think they used to say? It's okay. Different people speak different ways and they mean the same thing. So you're not a fraud. You know what you know. And whatever gift is laid on your heart to share with the world would not have been placed on your heart if you weren't meant to share it. So you're not a fraud. If you read 10 books about one subject, you are 90% ahead on that subject than anybody else is. It makes you an expert or an authority on that subject. So whatever it is you're interested in, I'm sure that you've read tons of books on it because you're interested in it. It's your gift. It's what you want to share. So again, the third fear is being found a fraud. So know that courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear. As by Ambrose Redmoon, I love this quote: courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear. So is your business more important than fear? Are the steps and the activities you need to do every day to share your gift more important than fear? So I say it's time to break up with that asshole named fear. Yep, it's time to break up with that asshole named fear. It's time to step into who you are with outrageous confidence. So I have 9 steps to do this. Number 1, Is it your fear or somebody else's? And if it's not yours, are you willing to let it go? Why or why not? So let me go back to, is it your fear or someone else's? We can pick up other people's fears. When my grandson was about 3 or 4 years old, I was at the zoo with him and my son, and they have those cars that are on the cable things that go from one place to the other. I am terrified of these things because of an incident that happened when I was a teenager. I got stuck in one for 4 hours. So I'm like afraid of them. I go on them, but I just like sit there and meditate and pray the whole time I'm on it. So my son thought it would be cool if he could video me and my grandson. So he threw my grandson in with me. And I'm sitting there, right? Like I'm doing my thing. I'm just taking deep breaths and I'm praying. And all of a sudden my grandson looks up at me and says, "Grandma, I don't like it up here." I had given him my fear. He picked up my fear. It took my son years to get that fear out of my grandson. My grandson was horrified of heights. He wouldn't get on a plane. He wouldn't go up elevators. He just was terrified of heights because of that one instant. But it wasn't his fear. It was my fear that he picked up on. So know that your fears may not be your fear. So step number 3, is it true? If the is the thing I fear, am I 100% for sure of the outcome? If you do whatever it is you're afraid to do, if you make that sales call, if you get rejected, if you put something out and it's not perfect, if somebody tells you that you're wrong about something, are you sure of the outcome of whatever that is? Step number 4, make a list of all the possible outcomes that can happen if you stepped into your fear. Every single thing that you can think of that could happen. And then ask yourself, what am I avoiding by holding on to this fear? And what are you gaining by holding on to this fear? Step number 6. Step number 7, am I ready to face my fear by stepping out of my comfort zone and testing the waters? Right? So you are holding on to something. You could be holding on to, for example, I used to be terrified of bees. I still don't like bees, but when I was 2 years old, I was stung in the nose by a bee. And so I was terrified of bees. And if a bee would fly by, I would like be this crazy woman. I almost wrecked my car whenever a bee flew into my house, into my car. I locked my kids outside with a bee because I was terrified of it. I've done some crazy stuff when it comes to bees. I would go into complete panic attacks if a bee flew by. So what was I gaining by holding on to this? I was gaining sympathy from other people. People would always go, "Oh, Cindy, I'm so sorry. It's so bad that you feel this way. It's so bad what happened." I understand because I would get a lot of attention. That's what I was gaining, was attention. And so what was I avoiding by holding on to this fear? I was avoiding the possibility of being stung. I was avoiding the possibility of death or having to go to the hospital and get a shot, whatever. Was I ready to face my fear by stepping into my comfort zone and testing the waters? I went to this place that had a ton of bees, and I sat in my car where I was safe, and I sat there and I just watched the bees, and I watched people walk by them. And this was difficult for me. I was stepping out of my comfort zone. Even though I was in the safety of my car, I was stepping out. And so what's one small step step number 8, what's one small step I can take today to face the fear? So with the bees, what I did was I walked by the bees. Okay. Well, the very first step was just sitting in my car and watching them. Okay. That was my first step. And it did get to be where now I can be outside and a bee's going to fly by and I don't turn into a crazy lady with a severe panic attack. Right. So you can overcome your fears, but it takes facing it and knowing what you're gaining and what you're holding on to by keeping it. My definition of confidence is to be willing to take action on something that you've never done before or scares the pants off of you. So know that again with we're going to talk about outrageous in just a moment, but to be confident, you're willing to take action on something you've never done before or scares the pants off of you. So walking outside where bees were scared the pants off of me, but I did it. And now that allowed me to be outrageously confident. So, outrageous is doing something bold or startling. It doesn't have to be bold or startling to everybody in the world. It has to be bold, startling, or unusual for you to do it. For instance, for me to sit comfortably outside with bees flying by was me being outrageous because I was bold. I was being bold. I was stepping into my fear. So be outrageously confident. It's a choice. It's not something you ever arrive at, but you just choose to be outrageously confident. And the more you choose that and the more you step out of your fears, the more success is going to come your way. So I challenge you to take 15 minutes and make a list of all the possible outcomes if you do that one thing that you fear. So tune in next week for another episode of Biz Success in 15 for you to step into who you are with outrageous confidence. And remember to get your visibility checklist at visibilitychecklist.com.